Let's talk to Alyssa in Texas. You're on the air with Bob Chapman.
Hi, Alex. I've been listening to your show for a while. My husband's been a fan for at least 5 years. We've listened, faithfully to your show, and we noticed that you do quite a few cases on CPS. Well, we emailed you earlier on this week telling you our story, but basically what happened was we took those stories with a grain of salt when we heard them, but it's a completely different story when it happens to you. Basically what happened is we have a 7-month-old daughter. She's 8 months old now, and she got an injury, and we took her to the I took her to the hospital because my husband's in the Marine Corps. Took her to the hospital, CPS called, and they took her out of my hands because my explanation was I don't know what happened.
And that happens a lot with babies and with children, that they're hurt and you're not sure how it happened. And have you gotten your daughter back from the clutches of the globalist?
No, they took her away from us and put her in foster care. And they did CT.
Ma'am, do you have blonde hair?
Yes.
Well, and you got blue eyes?
Green.
Oh, that's even worse. And if you got dark hair and black hair and green eyes, that's one of their favorite. That's because that's rare. Ma'am, it's come out in our news. It's admitted. They have bounties. They're looking for children, and people at the hospital get cuts of the money. And so you bring your child in, she's having trouble breathing, or, her arms hurt. I don't know. And they just snatch him, and then you go to the lawyers, and they just sell you down the river. Have they permanently terminated custody?
Not yet. We can't afford an attorney right now, so basically our hands are tied. We're fighting the state, and we don't know what to do.
And they're going to threaten you to sign forms and say, we'll give your baby back, just sign these, admit you hurt her. Have you told the monster, let me guess, this is about a 5'5" chubby guy with little piggy eyes who like smiles at you? Is that what, or is it a woman with a short haircut with a crazed look in her eyes? Because that's the only type they've got.
She's a troll. I'm just going to say she's
a troll woman. No, sure. No, well, yeah. No, I understand. No, that's only
side. They hire these so-called investigators to do a sloppy investigation. If the
well, here's the next problem, ma'am. Here's the next problem. Every child you ever have, even if you try to go to foreign countries, they're going to steal now. You'll never be allowed to reproduce, or you'll be a brood mother for them to sell your child. You've got to get to the media. You've got to have your husband in uniform. You've got to have press conferences. You've got to take this kidnapping for what it was. Let me guess, you get there, they said, wait right here, and then the police showed up with the troll?
Yep.
Yeah, well, those officers are just, they're all just pure evil. Listen, there are different family groups, homeschooling groups, family groups that know all the particulars of it. I know it as well, but you need to pull it up. You need to get, just search the term groups fighting CPS. And there's a lot of groups in Texas. Texas is one of the worst. And what town is this?
I'm actually in Morgan, Texas. It's at a Meridian.
Is that your husband in the background?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me talk to him.
How you doing, Alex?
Good. Hey, you're going to have to get your family involved. You're going to have to go on local radio. You're going to have press conferences. You're going to have to go knock on doors. You're going to have to go to the mayor's office. You're going to have to, make a huge deal out of this. Have they tricked you to sign a bunch of stuff yet?
Not quite. They're trying to. They've already got custody, but what they're seeking now is they want me to take counseling and therapy, and I expressed to them that the...
Yeah, let me stop you. Yeah, but while they keep your daughter, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And they've got hired counselors who work for them, who will then lie about you or twist anything you say and do. They're telling you, oh, prove you're good. So they've gotten a temporary protection order with the judge, which isn't a real court, it's a family court. So you need to talk to the experts. But, actually, this is why I don't like doing this show. I like to be like everybody else and ignore this is happening, but you can't hide from it. I told you, your wife was saying she thought it was a joke earlier. I'm telling you, it's not a joke. I've opened the door to hospital when a woman called us to help her, and then her only crime was she was poor with her husband. and they were waiting for an apartment. So they were staying in a hotel for a week. And the hotel point is, newborn baby. I open the door when I get there, and the police officer was choking her, saying, sign it, like in a movie. You open the door, and then the cops all come. They got their hands on their guns. They all look the same. It's like a special guild they have. And the CPS workers were like demonic, enjoying the torture. We're like, get out of here. And Mike Hansen caught some of it on tape, and me and Mike came outside and started crying with the evil we'd seen, because they were just like nesting demons on the woman, and they didn't even file her right name. It was a file. They used a filing to take the kid from a woman 2 years before, another woman whose kid they'd taken, and I got on TV and showed the files. I mean, they don't even fill forms out. It's just they walk into the judge, who's always sitting up there with their crew cut haircut if it's a woman, or if it's a man, all effeminate, and they just go, I mean, were you there at the demonic court hearing?
I was at the first court hearing, and it wasn't so much the judge and the sheriffs, because since it's a small town, they all know a lot of people and they're all real nice. But the Child Protective Services, they're all out of Waco, and I can. Yeah,
but you should have said, Judge, we don't know why the baby got hurt. I mean, that's all. We were honest about that. We're a good family. Give us our child back.
We did, and there was nothing that we could do. Based on the report that was filed, it painted us up to be terrible and awful people.
What happened to what happened to the baby?
Absolutely, and it was all lies.
Yeah, the report had lots of inconsistencies.
No, of course they lied. But I mean, my point is, why did you originally take the baby to the hospital? And we're going back to Bob. Why did you originally go?
We went back.
She has a spiral fracture on her femur. She got her leg caught underneath the couch and rolled over, and she got a hairline fracture. I took her to the hospital.
No, let me stop you. This is your defense. Doctors, when a baby is born, do a hip test to see if the hip is developed, and they routinely cause fractures just doing the medical exam. And so you go in, you get a doctor as a special witness, a family doctor, pediatrician, whatever, to explain that babies routinely do this, rolling around. They routinely. And so how did you know the baby was hurt?
Because she was crying. I mean, of course.
Okay, so you just say the baby was rolling around the floor and twisted something. Of course, I took her to the doctor. And then you get up there and you go to the media and you get it in your uniform and you start standing outside. You make a big issue in your town and you go to that newspapers, the local papers, and you talk to them and you tell them, defend us. And you go absolutely ape. But I just can't even hear these stories anymore. When I saw that cop grabbing that woman around the neck, and I couldn't even believe it. I mean, this country's so hell-bent on destruction. And I can't even remember all the names of the groups we've had on. There's a lot of great groups with lawyers that for free will help you. But it's, groups that fight CPS. And just stay in contact with us. Send us another email to showtips@infowars.com. And this hour is almost over, and I got a bunch of calls. Bob, I mean, just hearing that, it makes you want to leave the United States, but they're doing this worldwide.
You're absolutely right. They've caught groups in Belgium that have been doing it for years, and they export children to the Far East. And it's not only children. When I was living in Geneva in the late 50s, I knew a young girl my age whose dad was head of the police department, and I used to talk to him, and he would tell me our biggest crime here is the spiriting of young people out of the country to the Middle East. And these people come from everywhere, and they just, boom, they just disappear, and that's the end of it. And it's children, it's adults as well.
Well, it's admitted. DynCorp and others have been, Halliburton, caught running whole airfields, and now they are just they're selling people's children to these adoption rackets, and the parents don't know they're getting kidnapped kids. It's just pure evil. I just, that's not a good way to end this hour hearing her call. Bob, I mean, people say, well, you shouldn't be depressed. We're making big headway. I'm just sick of knowing how real the crime is. And people don't know how dangerous this country is. We had a woman last hour. The health department wrote her a survey saying, do you always put your kids in safety belts? Do you give them vaccines? Do you have any mental problems? And if you're honest and well, one time we had them in the back of the pickup truck out in the field, driving to a creek. They'll take your kids. They don't tell you this is a predatory They take over 1,200,000 kids a year in this country, Bob.
That's right, and they're going to keep on doing it unless we stop them. And I'm glad that the young lady and young man called in. And Alex, you send me their email address, and I'll get Drew Rains on this as well, the Marine Disquisition, and I think we'll climb all over them.
Guys, will you make sure when they send us an email, I know we get thousands, but we got to find their email they've sent us and try to get them some help. And then hundreds more people call us, and I investigate, and it's always worse. I mean, we have a lady works here whose great little daughter is so sweet. And I talked to her, and she had a bruise on the side of her leg at PE. And they took her in, they strip searched her. And they said, your mommy did this. And she said, no. And they were trying to take her. And then I told her, I said, don't go home. They're going to be waiting for you at your house. Because when I heard this happen, I said, go get her out of school right now. They're going to come take your kid. And then they tried. And then she went to go ahead and meet with a CPS person. When she pulled in the parking lot, there were cops hiding in the alley. And I said, get out of there. I was on the cell phone with her. I said, get out of there. And it turned out they were going to grab her. And she never would have got her little daughter back. But we got attention on it. But I can't do this for everybody. My audience can't always do it. Or then every time I call for people to aid us, then they'll stop helping us when we do ask for the help, because we do it constantly. I can't stop these criminals. I can't stop the pedophile rings. These CPS workers, most of them are pedophiles. I mean, I'm sorry, they're bags of pus. They're child-raping trash. We'll be right back. Everybody in the control room was telling stories about being 6 years old and jumping off the front porch and breaking their elbow, and their parents freaked out at the hospital with CPS trying to take them. But if you're a young baby, those are perfect to adopt because they won't remember, and your mother and father are white. That's the main groups they hunt. If you're white trash, or your parents are ugly, or you're not a baby people are wanting, you can be burning your kids with cigarettes. And they use those stories in the media. They won't take their kids. But if you got a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby, or raven hair, green eyes, that's their favorite because it's really rare. And the rich families will pay big money, and the Arab sheiks will pay big money. It's gone. It's gone. It's over. And then you'll read about the kids 20 years later in midnight visits to the White House as sex slaves in the Washington Times. That's mainstream news. I mean, they just don't care. They harvest us. Bob Chapman, it takes me to a level above rage.
Well, the only thing you can do when you get to that level is be as effective as you can because you understand the problem. And just like I said earlier when the gentleman and his wife were on, get me the email. Their email address, and I'll see what I can do, too.
And they can also go to theinternationalforecaster.com and find the emails there for you and get directly to you.
That's right, and we can put them on to the Marine Disquisition. There's got to be retired Marine non-coms and officers that live in that area that got connections that can do something.
Yeah, and don't just say, oh, that's their problem, I'm going to play golf, or I'm going to be a deacon at the church. Get in there and start defending people. This woman's going to have every child she ever has taken now. They don't get this one back.
Well, you got to try.
Absolutely. Well, no, they can get them back if they knew the proper procedures. And there's groups, and I've got stacks of work to do after the show. And now all I'll be thinking about is this and trying to help these people. And then when I help people, then we get literally thousands of calls a month, people crying. And